Welcome to Soul Trek. This episode, 6 Degrees of Separation. On Sunday past, we heard the parable of the Good Samaritan. It's a well-known parable. I'm sure you all are familiar with it. It's one of my favorites. It's a wonderful story. I'd love to go into it the way that I normally do, approaching it like it's a joke that Jesus tells, with a real twist on the punchline. But today I just want to focus on one word. In the translation we use, the word is pity. It's a peculiar sort of word today. It simply means to show compassion for somebody else. But if I say that I pity you, you might think that I'm looking down on you and even perhaps respond, I don't need your pity, or something like that. But the word that's translated as pity in the story of the Good Samaritan is in other places translated as compassion. But the Greek word actually means to be moved in the bowel. In other words, to feel something internally. And there are times in Scripture when we're told that Jesus is moved with compassion. What it actually says is that he's moved in the bowel. He feels another person's pain internally. And I think that that's a fairly common experience. It seems to be just essentially human if we see somebody else in pain to actually feel their pain. So I think the point of the story when Jesus says go and do likewise, he's asking us not to ignore that feeling that we feel, that pain that we feel when we see someone else in pain, and to try and do something about it. And of course to act within our means. I think that's an important part of the story. We can make the assumption that the Samaritan had the means in which to help this person. And I think that the church has the means collectively, not so much to end people's pain, that's not really the point of the story of the Good Samaritan, but to be a comfort, to be a help to other people when they are in some kind of discomfort or distress or pain. Because we're all in this together. We navigate life together, and our responsibility is to be with one another in the midst of it all, to be a neighbor to neighbor. There is this theory about 6 degrees of separation, and it essentially means that every human being in the world today is connected to every other human being through 6 people, no more than 6 people. And I've heard of studies that they've done where they might hand somebody a letter, and you have to do what you can to get that letter to the person that's on the address label. So if the person lives in Boston, you think, well, I know somebody who is going to Boston, and you give them the letter, and eventually it gets to the person that the letter is addressed to, and that it only takes 6 handoffs for that letter to get to somebody. They've done more modern experiments with emails. So someone sends you an email and you just need to connect to the person who's named in it, and it usually only takes 6 people to get there. I find that really interesting because it does speak to part of what Jesus is saying in the story of the Good Samaritan, that everybody is our neighbor. They're only separated by 6 relationships, 6 other people, at least no more than that. And I think that speaks to that idea that our neighbor isn't just the person that lives next door to us, but anybody in need is our neighbor. Everybody's connected by at least 6 connections. I know that sounds impossible and improbable, but I've heard of these experiments where this letter, most of the time, does get to the person it's addressed to within 6 handoffs. So I think that's amazing, and I think that Jesus asking us within our means to act upon the compassion that we feel for other people is really important as well. Thank you.